Hi, welcome aboard. There can be no doubt that Australia's small business community is in a terrible state. Now, the rights or wrongs of that can be argued in another place, but it's true to say that with a population of 17 million, a large number of our small businesses in various areas in the good times tend to fall into a situation of oversupply. Now, on the surface, that appears to be a good thing for the customers because prices are driven down. But underneath, it's never a good idea for any business area to be unhealthy. And low profits mean lack of health within any given business community. Now, the marine industry tends to suffer a bit more than most others from that particular syndrome. And that's due mainly to the fact that it's a hobby or cottage industry, and a lot of people get into it because they like boats and they feel that they can sell a few boats of a particular design that they like. So they set up a small factory building fiberglass or aluminium boats, which is easy to do. And because they're in the marketplace there, they tend to erode the prices of the people who are established and serious about being in the market. Now, that has happened to a great extent during the good times over the last 20 or 30 years in Australia. And at the moment, we find that most of those small peripheral operators have fallen out and left a nucleus of operators who've been there for a long time, who produce products of extremely high quality and maintain that high quality through the bad times, which is something that some of the small operators don't do, and are there for the long haul. Now, they're not necessarily having a great time either, but they're still there and they're still producing excellent product. And a case in point is John Haines with his Haines Signature organisation. John has always seemed to be able to firstly design boats which have superb performance on the water, which are beautifully finished, but which more importantly are relevant to whatever the market seems to be doing at any given time. He has a huge range of boats ranging in size from about 13 feet up to 28 feet. He's always looking at his range, he's always modifying, updating, refining. And the boat we're going to look at today is one of his largest open runabouts, the 740 RE. Now, with a hull of 7.4 metres or around about 24 feet in length, it would be easy for a manufacturer to look at the competition, which in this case, and particularly in this size, is largely from America, and endeavour to emulate the Sunbridge day boat type concept that we see regularly from American boats. John chose not to do that because he believes that the forces that influence the American market aren't necessarily the same as those which influence ours. The nature of our waterways, the type of boating that we do, the periods of time that people spend on their boats, and this is a trailer boat, by the way. She's only 8 feet or around about 2.47 metres in beam. The boating habits dictate the type of boat that you see here. By the way, I couldn't resist pulling our camera boat into formation a couple of times with a 740 during the bar crossings, and this is running offshore. It was an absolutely superb day, relatively smooth conditions offshore. It was a great thrill to run along in formation like that and to match the performance of the two boats. Now, John chose, as I said, to stay away from the dayboat concept and to go for what amounts to a large open runabout. Now, she may appear from the outside to be a large open runabout. In fact, there is accommodation with 2 bunks underneath that foredeck, very comfortable accommodation for 2 people. And across the after end of the boat, across that lounge that you see there, which actually is the engine hatch, we'll see that in a minute, it's electrically operated, there is a large sun lounge with a very useful boarding platform, Marlin type board, across the after end of the transom. In the cockpit, the boat is relatively simply laid out, but of course the quality is absolutely excellent in the usual Signature tradition. All of the materials of extremely high quality, and if you lift up the bunk cushions and have a look underneath, you'll find that the quality continues all the way down to the type of timber used for the squabs for the seats, and also the way in which the upholstery is executed. Now, there are several American boats on the market which simply will not stand that type of close examination, and I invite you to have a look underneath the bunk cushions of several of the more prominent brands of American boat, and you'll see exactly what I mean. And I guess what I'm saying is that the quality of this boat is not just skin deep. John has conducted a lot of research over a long period of time into gel coat technology. The gel coats that he uses and his methods of applying them give a superb finish, give a minimum of print through of the fiberglass pattern underneath, and also yield an extremely long lasting gel coat because of their ultraviolet filtration quality. So you're not going to, in a fairly short period of time, have the gel coat chalk off and go white, as often happens with some of the other boats on the market. So the beauty is not skin deep, but once again, we find we have an extremely comfortable and very usable boat, a boat which is versatile in the extreme. The turning performance there suggests one of her primary uses would be as a large social ski boat. She would work superbly in that particular role. She's certainly big enough to be able to handle choppy offshore conditions, and there's enough room to take a large family and do quite a bit of fishing. And obviously, of course, you could put the usual bimini tops. A targa would be available for this boat, off which you could hang a bimini, so you could cover in and make it more comfortable for extended sunny weather usage. But as with all signatures, the forte of this boat is in her hull performance. Now, she's fitted with a Mercruiser 350 Magnum Alpha 1 V8 stern drive, which gives her a top speed of 50 miles an hour. She comes onto the plane at about 2,000 revs per minute, and she will remain up on the plane quite comfortably down to 1,600 RPM, which means that you have, from your top speed of 50 knots, an on-the-plane cruise speed of around about 20 knots. Now that means that the range and the cost of operation would be cheap in the extreme. This boat would be a very economical boat to own, providing that she was intelligently driven down around the 20 to 25 miles an hour range. You're still covering ground very, very rapidly, but you're using very little fuel. In other words, the engine's only operating at around about a half of its normal capacity. Now that's a really telling factor for somebody who's considering a boat of this size and type, and that is, of course, the economy of operation. The hull features the standard patented signature underwater profile, which involves a variable degree of V. In other words, the chines are in the water, and the effective V is well under 20 degrees. But as the boat rises up on the plane out of the water, the V becomes an effective 30 degrees, which gives you an extremely soft ride. And you can see in these shots the way the boat's running along, and even though the water is being thrown out as she encounters waves, the actual movement of the hull itself is minimised and is extremely gentle. So you have a boat whose bottom is working to give you an extremely smooth ride regardless of the conditions. Now, another factor too which struck me, and a fairly subtle one, is the fact that as the boat rises to her normal angle of plane, which she does with a minimum of bow lifting, the foredeck remains parallel with the water. So her trim angle was designed into the boat from day one to afford an extremely comfortable driving position and a predetermined trim angle to give the driver maximum visibility. You just saw the electric engine hatch operating there, the 350 Magnum idling away under the back, a magnificent offering from John Haines, and one which will be released at the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show. Now, just a nice little touch. There's a sink in front of the passenger there, and a fold-up perspex table. Across the aft lounge, under the bunks, there is stowage and an icebox, and there's a shot of the bunks and the toilet inside the boat. A magnificent offering from Signature, the 740 RE.